Kevin, what does collaboration mean to you in our industry?
Thanks, Derek.
My pleasure.
I think there's the everyday collaboration that we do as a matter of the jobs that we all do. So the teams that work on events, the collaborations that we have with our clients, and we do that as well as any other agency group or set of people that work on projects. I think what we're really talking about here is how we get more of what we do, how we collaborate to get better ideas, how we collaborate to get better results. And I think for me, certainly the mood of the world of our clients is that in the suite of agencies they work with or partners they work with, they're not interested where the idea comes from. They want us, with their advertising agency, their CRM agency, their PR agency, to collaborate in order to bring them the best ideas. And then for all of us to do the thing that we do, deliver in our own channel. And I think that is the opportunity in terms of collaboration now. That's what collaboration means to me.
And Will, do you agree with Kevin? You've got an awful lot of experience with bringing agencies together and working with other agencies.
I do. I mean, I generally spend most of my time helping people collaborate, really, with agencies working with agencies or different non-agency groups trying to deliver things with agencies. And it was quite interesting to see people this morning. I think there is a difference between good collaboration and bad collaboration. I think we've all been there where everyone's sitting there and trying to find an idea, throwing things together, hoping something magic appears, which I think is always can be bad collaboration. Good collaboration to me is when there is an idea and a vision and someone's going to drive that forwards and pull the various bits in to make that vision happen, rather than just sticking things together. I think that's quite important.
Do you agree, Pauline?
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening. I'm a deep listener. I'm an introvert. I'm thinking. Yeah, I think what was popping in my mind as I was listening to the two of you is that there has been such an evolution of our world. What is marketing anymore? What is, some of the agencies are actually in the product business, right? They're building products, all about that consumer touch point. What is the consumer going to do? And we find ourselves collaborating with all kind of people and experts in the field. So it's really kind of agreeing on a methodology that will be successful for each partner. So each partner really has, there's something in there for them as well as for the client. Yeah. I think it really has to, and sometimes that means, I think the thing that sometimes stands in the way is budgets. Everyone wants the bigger share of the money bucket, and so that's one key thing to kind of figure out is how we're going to be rewarded for success and for collaboration.
Yeah. Okay. But I think that good collaboration actually is about increasing the size of the bucket rather than worrying about your share of the bucket.
Yeah.
So
good
for
point.
me, what your question, what marketing is about these days is about brand reputation. That's why everyone's obsessed with social media. Mm-hmm. It's creating and managing that reputation. And if we can show clients how we collaborate to do that, the bucket will get bigger. Because there's no one out there better place to do that than the live space.
Is it about exciting the client? So, as you say, more budget will be forthcoming, bigger projects maybe. Yeah. And Simon, what happens when people don't collaborate?
Well,
Simon works a lot for the public sector.
I think the real issue, and again it was referenced earlier on, is the kind of end of the process, how you measure things. So when you bring lots of agencies together and you have clients who don't really care about where the idea originates from, what often happens where you've got multi-agency involvement is that everybody measures everything in different ways. And that's a big challenge because some of the metrics, particularly say the digital side, are hard and fast and are often very impressive. And trying to align all the different channels in terms of what the agreed outcome is and what the agreed measurement is can be very tricky. So if you've got some out-of-home activity that's achieved a huge amount and you're comparing that with the actual event itself, what are the KPIs, what are the levels of measurement? So I think that's one of the challenges. A real-world example for me of where collaboration doesn't happen is kind of at the forefront of my mind at the moment, and it's the terrible situation you've had in Rotherham. About 5 or 6 years ago, we took out a roadshow to talk to professionals working in the safeguarding area. And we used video as a kind of training tool. So we had some scenario videos made, and we talked to professionals and practitioners from the police, from social services, from educational welfare, who were going to be part of the safeguarding structure that was being put in place. And our scenario video featured an empty chair. And that empty chair represented social services, because all the other practitioners said social services never turn up. Now, we showed that at every one of these roadshows. We did about 16 of them, launching safeguarding areas. And there were hardly any protests from social services, because they hadn't come to the event. Now, these events were intended to get people together to collaborate. And one of the awful things we found was that when you sat a police officer down with somebody from the educational welfare services, with somebody from the local housing authority, with somebody from the local council, children's services, often these people who worked and lived in the same area had never met before, they'd never collaborated before, they'd never had the opportunity to do so. And despite all of that work, it's transparently obvious in the real world situation we find ourselves in, they still haven't been collaborating. And what they're now doing is trying to pass the blame to each other for that lack of collaboration. So there are opportunities, I think, where you can try and make people collaborate, you can try and encourage it. But unless you've got absolute control over all the participants, it won't work. And I think that control element, that getting people engaged and getting people involved is really important.
And when we talk about collaboration across our membership, very diverse group of members from the venues at one end, the camera people at the other, digital people, how can, as an association or group of members, collaborate better for their own businesses, but also for the end result for the client? Will?
I think the what you stated numbers almost, isn't it? There's probably all different groups, associations that exist. I think the ones that work best are the ones where the group of people actually get together and actually present good ideas rather than just talking and mulling things over and, dare I say, complaining. There's actually positive solutions to actually solve real world problems in the collaboration space, or the agency space, and the clients. If there's momentum and ideas and then push forward, then you can have some kind of result. I think it's good for me, but the way I tend to run things is it's pretty open forward. People listen to everything, act on some of it. So if people have got a suggestion that works, improves things or helps, then if not, people will get listened to. I think that's where Com can actually serve the industry better.
I think the collaboration around ideas is really important. I think you've almost got to put your financial needs somewhere else and not worry about it, because it will develop. So we often proactively go to our clients with ideas. We've got no brief, we have no mandate to do it, but it always turns into something. And I think wherever you are in the industry, whether you're a lead agency or one of the amazing freelancers or suppliers, you've got to make ideas your currency. And if you've got an idea for someone, go to someone and present it. And we develop ideas to take to clients with no thought that we're going to get any money for it.
You're not responding to a brief now, you just...
No. We've worked with clients for a long time, and if you understand them, you have a feeling for where they're going and what they're trying to do. So just to show that you're passionate about their business and to take them stuff that they haven't asked for, that has cost you time, effort and money. And if you're 14th assistant director on a shoot and you've got an idea, just get up there and turn it into something. Come and talk to the lead agency.
But one of Pauline's points was that the kind of diversity and the age issue too. The last big event I was on, I had a very young guy sitting in the corner who was the community manager. And I'd never worked with a community manager before, but he was basically blogging and tweeting and doing all that kind of good stuff. And he was at it all day long. And I said, this is amazing. You must be pumping. He said, no, I'm running 5 different blogs at the moment because, you're not paying me enough. So I've got all these other things to do as well. But his his input and his freedom and his willingness to kind of come up with interesting ideas in terms of the pictures that he was asking people to take, the comments he was looking for, the kind of input he was getting from speakers, was stuff I'd never even considered because it's not in my skill set. So I think from an association point of view, no matter where you sit and what kind of business you're running, whether you're a freelancer or you're running a company or you're part of a big agency, being open within an association to sharing those experiences, learning those new skills, appreciating what people bring, that's part of the collaboration I think we need to strive for.
How can we develop that more as leaders? Because we're under pressure, that the briefs come in, we've got to get it through, and we haven't got time to listen to colleagues. How can we improve on that?
Make the time. I think, you know, that Pauline's
How do
point
you do
about
it?
time and resource.
Pauline, in your agency, how do you make that time?
Yeah, you're right. I think it does come from leadership, and it starts with you and the way you communicate. I think that point about authenticity and openness is really key, but also how you measure success for your team. You know, if you measure success by the number of emails they're sending out versus, you know, really fostering that communication through what we call open planning, but these big open forum, where you really are valuing and inviting different point of views, whether it's a gender or age or skill set, and where you show that you value these, that everyone has a say, essentially.
But it's making that moment in time possible for that young 18-year-old
Right.
person that's come in and sat there terrified to say anything, but they've got a great idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what the VAK model is really interesting, because it's designed for everyone to be able to contribute, because those who are shy or feel they don't have the seniority are invited to write down an idea, for instance, and present it. And then all of a sudden there's a greater flow of ideas and creativity. And I loved your point about juxtaposition of different profession, because, you know, one of the best definitions of creativity I've ever heard is really, it's just taking two ideas from different fields and then combining it.
Yeah.
So the more diversity you have, even in this organization, the more chances that something is going to get triggered, like an insight. It's like, oh, you know, I didn't realize you guys were doing this over there, that I can apply this to my business. Sorry.
Simon's point
Thank you
about,
so much.
you know, there is no more time where you just make the time. If you're passionate about it, you'll find the time. There's never ever been a time where it's been easier to get heard, get noticed, and actually make things happen. And there are examples. You talk about how an association can work together, when our different members can work together. There are more and more examples where there are groups of freelancers or groups of individuals coming together as collectives or as a collaborative partnership, and actually challenging some of the big agencies and traditional ways of working. I won't reveal off here for confidentiality reasons, but there were large contracts going to, you know, a small group of 3 or 4 freelancers who just got together, come up with an idea and won it.
Yeah.
That's never been easy to do.
I was going to say that there are lots of little sayings that we have, and one of them is you get paid for the job you do, you get rewarded for the value you add, and you've got to think that about your agency, your business, your own contribution in the company. Yeah, the day job is hard, and you know, we're working 15, 18, whatever hours a day delivering events, but that's not adding value. That's just doing the job you're being paid for, and even if it is 24 hours a day for 4 weeks, that's what you get paid for. Finding a way to add value is what's going to drive your career, your business, your industry forward, and that's, you've got to make time for that.
Yeah.
It's quite, when you, to that point, it's quite a harsh world unless you're adding value. You almost don't deserve to be doing anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
have to fight for that right.
Okay.
And I think the thing about empowering guys, young guys, girls in meetings is letting them know that they're there to make a contribution.
Yeah, and
If
they're
they're
allowed
in
to
the
do it.
room, they're there because they've got something to say.
Yeah.
If they're not in the room, then, you know, when I was at Saatchi, one of the board directors, to get us over that little hump, he used to pay us 50p for every time we said something. It was a lot of money. It was a week's wages. But I started off and said, it's 4 quid. No. But it does get you into the room and it does get you talking, and you just got to find
ways of doing that,
Yeah.
and engaging. Yeah, absolutely. Any questions from the floor? No.
Want to write it down on a note?
No. Okay. No notes yet. Oh, yes, we
There's a
do.
question right there.
Thank you. You were just saying then that, sorry, Esri Karlbach, I'm a consultant and lecturer. You were saying that it's almost better to not do the job at all if you can't add value. But do you think that we're doing enough to prepare people coming into the workforce that that's the case? That actually it's all about adding value, speaking up and having ideas rather than conforming, doing what you're told and sticking to systems?
When you say coming in, you mean through education?
Well, yeah. People coming from school or university or career changes or anybody coming into the industry.
My view on this is if you're going to come into this industry, experience is everything. So if you want to be, what you want to be, saying a cameraman, a producer, physics manager, whatever it is, nothing compares to that. Nothing compares to just having a go, having some evidence you've had a go, and try to add some value and try to change things. My own story is one of just doing things differently and trying to change things. That's why I ended up doing what I'm doing. And I'd say nearly everyone I contract or employ or engage has demonstrated some evidence of trying to do things differently or trying to change things or trying to add some sort of value. I can't speak for everyone else, but I would say people that just rock up and say, I'm a cameraman or I'm a producer, give me a job. It's kind of no interest. It's like, what added value are you going to do? What are you going to give to me? What problems are you going to solve?
Yeah.
It's just like, I can waffle about education.
Simon.
Well, no, last time I was in front of a room full of students, it was at Birmingham, and I was amazed at how many of them had very preconceived ideas of what they wanted to do. So there's one guy who was fixated on running his own festival. So I said, that's really interesting. How many festivals are there in this area on an annual basis? And he didn't know. Now, I thought that was quite interesting that he had no idea, but that was what he wanted to do. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities out there in higher education and in our universities to go through event management or event type degree courses. And I sometimes wonder whether we are actually equipping people to do the right kind of thing through those courses, because unless you're asking quite critical business questions like, is there a gap in the market, or am I just doing this because I like going to festivals, you can get in trouble.
And staying with the education route, do we as an industry, and I'm taking that broad industry, collaborate enough with the educational establishments? I'm not sure what it's like in the States. Paulie.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, being French-born and having experienced the education system in France and then also in the United States, I would have to say that there's definitely a lot more professional involvement in higher education. When I went to school for journalism at UCLA, my main professors were all editors of the LA Times, and they were really engaging us and really driving us to get a lot of real life experience and be on the ground. And I think that's, certainly an important question to ask. Are we doing, as
enough? Yeah.
As mature professional, are we donating our time? Because that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. We don't get paid very much in the US, but I think that's a key thing. Absolutely.
Kevin, what's your thoughts on the UK and our involvement?
We for the last 3 years have been involved in the Eventist, which is the apprentice for third-year event students. And there's a load of tasks they get to come and work out, sometimes with Johnson and others. And that's led us into lecturing at, guest lecturing at unis, to really try and, because I'm going to generalise now, and I'm really sorry that I'm going to offend everyone. The teaching degree courses around the event industry, look at the event industry of 10 years ago, when the event industry was really about, let's get it up, make sure it survives, make sure it doesn't fall over, and making sure we hit it. That's not where the event industry is now. It's not, certainly not where we're going in terms of long form, copy, event curation, brand reputation, collaboration. collaborative working, content-led. And what I do, and what we've done over the last few years, is go and tell them that. And certainly the apprentice guys, they make, they try and add value because every single one of them is amazing. And we've taken on 3, one of them is in the audience that he was 2 years ago, Pete there, who's now working full-time with us. They're amazing, you could give them all a job because they're all keen to learn, they all demonstrate adding value. But sometimes they get into it for the wrong reason. As Simon said, they all think they're going to work at a festival because they come into the event business. That's not the event business that we're in. But once they understand where we are, once they understand what the opportunity is, they're excited by that. It's actually a bit more exciting than the thing the degree course is teaching them. And I think it's beholden on us to do something about it, to go and get a lecture.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey said, when you've been up on the lift, send the lift back down, bring someone else up. That's what we've got to do.
And I think if we don't, there's some real danger signs across our industry, across the whole span of industry, from events through to digital, through to video. There's not enough people coming through because maybe we're not just engaging with and collaborating with those educational establishments.
I think the other challenge is what is the event industry?
Yeah.
One of the
4 hours.
One end of the scale, you've got florists, cameramen, technicians. There's a whole, trying to teach all that in one course, I think, is a challenge.
Yeah.
There's a discipline called event management, which is about bringing all those things together.
Yeah.
And I spend more time lecturing on non-event management courses, things like project management courses and stuff, because they're more interested in how on earth we do what we do and how ridiculous it is. But I think if people want to get into the event industry, I think to your point about how to bring people forward, it's almost the benefit of doing something else. If you were doing a degree in something medical, for example, you've probably got more chance of getting a career or job in medical conferences or whatever else, because you understand the content and you can find people to actually make it happen.
Yeah.
If you want to work in the event industry, find a niche you're interested in. Go and work on festivals, or go and work in medical, wherever else. Once you're in, you can then start moving around. I think it's finding that hook to get in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let's just open up for another question. Yes. JJ.
JJ Jackson, Performing Artists. Going back to the point you were making earlier about collaborating with, when you've got a number of suppliers collaborating on a job. We saw a case study this morning from Disney where you had lots of different agencies who were actually, I think they were listed as the stakeholders, so they were forced to work together, with, if you like, whether liked it or not. How can we, as an industry, do more to encourage the agencies to perhaps collaborate more with suppliers and see it as more of a partnership rather than just a supplier relationship? I'm amazed that I very rarely get asked by, a lot of my clients are production companies and we love them dearly, but I'm amazed I never actually get asked to come in to pitch with them. I don't want to do it every day of the week, obviously, but every now and again I think perhaps I might better add some value. And I'm not going to speak out of turn or drop them in it fee-wise, but...
No, and JJ, I think that's the point. You don't want to do it every day of the week, but we do. So we're pitching almost every day of the week. And the suppliers or partners that we work with well are those people who put their hand up to do more than we're asking them to do. Often with venues, what they're interested in just sending us plans and getting on with artist management. Here's the website, there you go. It's the guys that put their hand up to do a bit more, to come in and consult. I'll come in and talk to your team, and I'll, that sort of stuff is gold for us because it makes us different than anyone else. And if you're prepared, wherever you are in the chain, if you're prepared to come and do that, it would add value to us, and it will strengthen the partnership between us and you.
I would say,
I think it grows the team as well and their experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very well.
I'd say, agencies are a route, but if you've got an idea or there's a...
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
So I don't want to... Agencies are, but if you've got an idea or something you want to do or a gap in the market that you can find, there's nothing stopping you, not necessarily you personally, but someone in your team, tying up with whoever else to pull something together and start presenting it to, whether it's brands or to agencies even, and actually putting together the package, I guess.
Well,
That's how agency started, so...
Yeah. Sorry.
I would say that there is that aspect. I'm surprised you don't get more production companies when they're pitching, asking us as a supplier to come in and actually pitch with them so we can talk about our specific area of expertise. So which I'd happily do. But I'm just amazed we very, very rarely actually get any companies who actually ask us to do that. You know, we, if you like, pitch to them, and they then go and pitch to their client, which is fine, but sometimes there can be a sort of a loss in translation, and if suddenly something comes up in the meeting which
Simon.
we haven't discussed.
Yeah, but isn't that the difference, though, between competition and collaboration in a way? That if it's in a kind of pitch situation, going out to the supply chain and talking to people at that point, when you're in a competition, might not be the best way of building the business and adding the value. If you've got a collaborative relationship with your client, where you actually have, it isn't a pitch, but you have the chance to ask questions, to develop the dialogue, to start finding out what their real needs are, and creating a very clear, jointly shared vision with the client, that's when perhaps you can start reaching out to the supply chain and saying, okay, you know, let's think about, you know, the models who are going to wear the kit, or let's think about how we're going to shoot the photo shoot. And you start to then engage. And I think that's probably where collaboration can be such a useful tool in terms of developing business and adding value, is that if you avoid the competitive process by being much more collaborative, you get more insight, you get more opportunity, you get more business. And I think that's one of the key things.
On that point, though, what happens, we've got some clients, or they're not clients yet, but you get a brief through, and it may have come from procurement, it's not even coming from the stakeholders. So you say, right, we need a face-to-face meeting, we need to meet with the stakeholders, we want to put some ideas and bounce some things around. No, you can't meet. There's the brief. The objectives could be objectives for any type of project in the world. You know, we want to motivate our team. Great. How can you deal with that? They won't even give you the budget, so there's no collaboration whatsoever. There's a brief, respond. Do you walk away? Pauline?
Yeah, that's just not fair. I'm sorry. You know, I think I told you.
I've said that still doesn't work.
If you're not willing to put some skin in the game and be a true partner, for me, that would be a red flag in my new business filtering. And they're already exhibiting signs of poor collaboration capability. So I think you have to educate the client, and you know, sometimes the way around it is like, okay, why don't we get together to truly scope this thing, at least, you know, because it's not going to be successful. You're going to get this wide range of budget that really you're not comparing apple to apple. Everyone is having their own interpretation of what the scope is. Let's get together and at least get the scope done, and then everyone can go in and pitch. You know, have a clearer. I mean, there's usually a tissue session, right? There's usually a question and answer. Yeah. So I think if you can find a way to show them how unclear the document is. But I agree with you. I think the rise of procurement is a huge issue, and I think we have to get together as professionals to kind of turn it around and start saying no.
Yeah.
You know, you don't disclose the budget. I'm sorry, I don't pitch unless I know the budget.
It's a brave company to go out, or agency to do that.
Guts is one of our pillars. Yeah.
I think it's right, and I've had my company now for 7 years, and any time we get a tender like that, I can think of only one exception, but we do exactly the same thing. It's like, well, no, you know, we're not going to waste our time putting all this time and effort into stuff, and then just for you to basically mark us on the price of scaffolding. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And also, again, thinking back to what we heard earlier, that kind of building a relationship and establishing trust, it is key to that kind of thing, I suspect, where you can make a judgment call because you know the people you're working with or you want to work for well enough to decide whether or not it is worth the time and the effort and the resource. And that's really important, I think, making sure you've got that trust in terms of the collaborative way that you've been working with people.
Right. And we can give a little advertisement here that EVCOM is organising a procurement conference in November to educate procurement professionals to how to procure air industry. All right, another
good luck
question.
with that.
Somebody, Steve. And then over there.
Yeah, isn't this fundamentally about what an agency is? I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but surely one of the ideas behind an agency, and actually the way that many clients see this, is that they want an agency to come in and solve their problem for
Yep.
them. And with all due respect to other partners, suppliers, for example, talent agencies and so on, probably in many cases the client doesn't particularly want to meet them, or at least they think they don't want to meet them. Because the agency as a vehicle is designed to be a solution to all of the client's problems.
Yep.
And therefore we need really to think about how, if we want to go down this route, and I think it's great hearing fine words up on the stage, but I wonder how closely this actually relates to how many people run or work within their agencies. But if we really want to change how this works, we need to think about what agencies are for. If we think agencies are really a focal point where a pool of talent or a sort of set of resources can come together from multiple different areas, then maybe clients would expect us to turn up at a pitch meeting with 4 or 5 people, 3 of whom don't come from your organisation. But if they think, because of the way that we position our agencies, that we're there to solve all their problems, the last thing you want is someone who's not from your company sitting in that meeting who seems to demonstrate that your own agency has a gap in its skills.
Yep. I think
Interesting point.
there's a number of things in there, and I think what and this isn't just fine words on the panel, this is actually what we do. So we're an agency that solves clients' problems creatively. That's it. And I think if that's your proposition, then that's what you have to do. And actually I don't really buy into the whole procurement thing in the way that everyone's obsessed with it. You know, I ran my first procurement workshop 8 years ago with procurement professionals, trying to understand what they did and how we, the agency I was with at the time, how we would change to make sure that we didn't fall foul of their requirement. And I think there's a number of things in the procurement model that are interesting for us as creative problem solvers. One, they're not tasked with saving money on scaffolding. They're tasked with saving money on buying. So 100, I want to save 15% of that 100, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. You know, if you're P&G, it's trees to make paper. If you're British Aerospace, it's jet engines. How do I save money against that thing? Well, if you know that, then you've really got to structure your offer in a way that fits that model and have your own procurement professionals heading off with their procurement professionals and save money on the things that can be procured. But funny enough, the things that can't be procured is the creative problem solving. It's the planning, it's the strategy, it's the creative ideation, it's the creative proposition. Now those things are at the bedrock of this industry. It's what we do best. So what you've got to do is find a way of matching your profit requirement with the way clients are buying through procurement. You know, there's a client that we work with that has a brilliant system. They have brand and event in the first round, so 4 agencies, 5 agencies, and then procurement in the second round. So brand and event choose the second round participants, 2 of, and then they come on the phone and say, you're too expensive. You're 40% more. Yeah, of course we are. But you then know it's a money thing. So you've passed the brand, you've passed the event round. So in the money round, you've got to decide what you want to give for it. You don't have to say yes. When they say we need to say 15%, you don't have to say yes. You can say no. And if you're proud of your price and you're confident of where you are in the marketplace, then you can say no. And I think that would probably change our industry more than anything. And Will mentioned it earlier. Just saying no sometimes is the most powerful thing you can do. I know we're in a knife fight for business and we're all looking for more money, but sometimes saying no is more profitable. You know, we probably spend, and Simon knows this because I said it to him, we probably spend between 25 and 30 grand on every single pitch we do, if you take the time of the people working on it and the creation of the stuff. Well, that's a lot of money. And as my old colleague Julian said, that's like driving a BMW off the roof of your building every time you pitch. You don't want to do that. And you have to decide, to Pauline's point, what are your measures for a toxic pitch? We don't get a budget, we've got no access to the client, we don't know the brand, there's a strong income, whatever those things are that you decide are going to be bad for you, then say no. Do something else. Spend the money somewhere.
Okay. Can I just go to a question there?
Hi Dale. I'm here with my Emma hat on. So Emma is the Event Marketing Association for corporate in-house event planners, and I circulated the concept and a few notes around some of our members around collaboration, and I got a bit of feedback from them. So this is coming from corporates. Basically, they turn around, about understanding what their issues are, what their challenges are, and at times they don't need all this creativity. So a bit like what you, Kevin, said, this is logistics, just deliver this program, this event for us. So a kind of commoditization of the program. They suffer enormous time for lack of time internally to have creative collaboration. So that's a major issue for them. They've seen quite a lot of issues around agencies around the table together then fighting to be lead agency. And so there's infighting going on, which could be a right pain. And then this concept, I think you kind of mentioned it there a bit before, but the right to then automatically get the next piece of business, because perhaps someone has gone a little bit further, they have been collaborative, but as far as they're concerned, the line's drawn, let's get on with the next project, the next pitch, and everything else. So it sounds a bit negative, but there is a gap, there is a chasm at times between the agencies and the corporates, and of course in my past hat it was an agency hat, so I also understand it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was working recently with a major sponsor, and their Marcoms people who were actively engaged in the project took me in to meet one of the senior partners in the bank, and it was amazing to me as a kind of insight is that they spent at least 20 minutes explaining to the banker who they were and what they did for the bank. And these were quite senior people talking to somebody even more senior who was kind of, a money maker, who had absolutely no idea what the Marcoms team did or where they operated or why they were engaged in this particular activity or what it meant and the commitment. And that really made me think, this dilemma of how we deal with corporates, big corporates in particular, where there's such a kind of silo working mentality. We make the money, you waste it because you do frivolous stuff like marketing and events and digital and all that crap, and you're not where we are. It is an issue. But coming back to the point Steve raised earlier, I think, there's a transformational thing going on in the industry where actually if you're selling you're not a big agency, you're an individual. It's your expertise and your experience and the kind of, this is what I offer you, or this is what I can bring to the party, that absolutely does address some corporate needs sometimes, where you can just walk in and say, I've been involved in, not me personally, but I know people who say, I've done 3 Olympics, I've done, great incentive programs around all of those. If you're planning something for Rio, talk to me, because I've got the experience and the expertise. One individual can do that just as effectively as a large agency going and saying, here's our travel division and here's our entertainment people.
Thanks, Simon. Final thought, Will.
I think the point about it's just about agencies, I think, is an interesting one and ties into the point you're saying about we just want the logistics, just deliver the damn thing. It's partly why I set up doing what I do now, is recognising the fact that not all corporates, but some brands kind of know what they want. They want it to look like this, they want it done, they just want someone to come in and do the legwork. And they are literally just buying production managers, logistics managers, scaffolding, to use the same example, and just want it delivered. And I think, not all agencies, but a lot of agencies kind of fall down trying to sell the creative to win the production. So you might have something that might cost 100 grand, but it costs 200 grand now because you're trying to put the creative on top of it. I think that's a lesson I think a lot of agencies are learning. It's probably a lesson a lot of agencies don't like because they're there to sell the creative. I think to Simon's point, there are so many individuals now who have relevant bits of experience that can either be implanted into an organisation just to help the corporates with the logistics, or to build what an agency would normally do in-house in some way, shape or form. I think there's just so many different models now. I don't think there is you have to get an agency to do an event. It's just, it comes back to our first point about if you're an individual or a cameraman or a production manager, whatever it is, there's so many different ways to get noticed and help different corporates out and other organisations. To your point about the challenges that corporates face, the lack of time, just get on and do it. there are probably more options out there that people are unaware of to try and capitalise on. I mean, there is always going to be a need for big agencies to do certain things. I don't think it's going away. But there's so many more opportunities for individuals and groups of individuals to come together.
Okay. Final thought, Kevin?
I think, to the point earlier, the ultimate collaboration is you and the client. And if you understand what the client wants, then your collaboration is going to be healthy. And if they want someone to stop faffing about doing creative and just get on with logistics, then that's what you need to do. And we do that for certain of our clients. We don't always bang on about creative. Yeah, that's the bigger mission and purpose. But the real collaboration is understanding your client and your client's needs and building your response tailor-made to that client and not keep trying to do the thing that you're trying to sell.
Pauline, right. What about you? Final thought?
Yeah, what's coming up for me is really the de-siloing, breaking down coalitions, whether it's us against the client or the client against us or us against the vendor or the vendors against us. I think we have to understand that everyone does have their own concern, their own perspective, their own, a risk that they're taking in the relationship, and really using effective modes of communications to understand this perspective. And it's effective if it's working.
Yeah.
That's the thing, So I think de-siloing and being able to embrace all of these POVs would have to be really key.
Fantastic. Simon,
Well,
last word.
I think I'm thinking about collaboration. One of the kind of phrases that I spotted looking at kind of the whole area of collaboration was, the power of more than one, of bringing 2 or 3 or 4 people together, making it much more powerful, the kind of interaction between different disciplines. And one of the phrases that popped up was better together. And I suddenly realised that was a phrase that I'd heard a lot of recently. And there is a perfect example, I think, of where collaboration can go horribly wrong. So on the one hand, you have people saying it's better together, but there are 3 political parties involved who haven't quite aligned their vision, haven't quite got the process right, and haven't quite kind of, got the arguments set out properly, although there might possibly be a tiny bit of a lead. Whereas the Yes campaign in Scotland at the moment have got a very clear vision, have got a very clear message, have communicated it with passion, and have done all the right kind of things that you need in proper collaboration. And the ballot will tell us who's won through on that. But it struck me as being very ironic that Better Together, which is a centre of collaboration, was being demonstrated that the only way to make that work is hauling some grumpy old bastard called Gordon Brown out and getting him on the stump in a way that nobody's seen him for years and years and years. But that's the way he is. He's in his home turf, he's enjoying himself. So brilliant. So Better Together, I think, forget about what's going to happen tomorrow on the vote, but Better Together is definitely a way forward in terms of working in the industry.
Simon, on that note, thank you to our panel. Round of applause.